Did you know that the terrorist attacks on the U.S. that resulted in the fall of the Twin Towers started 2 wars and caused many things to change around the world?
I'm Chris.
And I'm Dante.
In this podcast, we're going to discuss the terrorist attacks of 9/11.
9/11 resulted from the confluence of multiple factors. The Iranian Revolution stirred Islamic extremism, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, and the assassination of the Egyptian president.
Before we get into that, let's talk about an early attack by Al Qaeda, the terrorist organization led by Osama bin Laden that we found information on while researching 9/11.
Just 1 year earlier than 9/11, in October 2000, the USS Cole, a U.S. naval destroyer en route to refuel at the port of Aden, which is a harbor in Yemen, was attacked by Muslim militants associated with Al Qaeda.
A small boat filled with suicide bombers blasted a 1,600 square foot hole in the ship's hull, killing about 17 soldiers and leaving 39 wounded.
In 2004, a Yemeni court tried terrorist Abd al-Rahim al-Nashiri for the USS Cole attack, sentencing him to death, and the U.S. military filed charges against him in 2008. On September 11, 2001, at 8:46 a.m., hijacked American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center.
17 minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., hijacked United Airlines Flight 175 crashed in the South Tower of the World Trade Center.
34 minutes later, after the crashes were thought to have been over with, hijacked American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon.
At 9:59 a.m., the World Trade Center South Tower officially collapsed.
Only 11 minutes after that, hijacked United Airlines Flight 93, said to be intended to crash into the White House, crashed into a rural field in western Pennsylvania after passengers realized the plane was hijacked and overthrew it at 10:10 a.m.
At 10:28 a.m., the World Trade Center North Tower officially collapsed.
The events that happened on this day resulted in around 3,000 people killed and thousands more injured.
These awful attacks resulted in the U.S. going to war in Afghanistan less than a month later on October 7, 2001.
About a year and a half later, the U.S. went to war with Iraq on March 20th, 2003.
The mastermind of Al Qaeda was Saudi Arabian man Osama bin Laden.
After 9/11, bin Laden was the top target in the U.S.'s war on terror.
After almost 10 years of war and special operations mission by the U.S. Special Forces, specifically the SEAL Team 6, bin Laden was killed in a mission directly given by President Obama.
The most important reason 9/11 represents a turning point in history is that it made people around the country fear flying, and it caused 2 wars that costed the U.S. $2.1 trillion.
Evidence we found states that Al Qaeda terrorist organization hoped that by attacking Twin Towers and Pentagon, they would promote widespread fear throughout the United States.
And severely weaken their standing in the world, supporting Middle East and Muslim political and religious goals.
Another reason 9/11 represents a turning point in history is because the 2 wars that were started because of it, one in Afghanistan and one in Iraq, killing hundreds of thousands of people in the Middle East.
Evidence that we found states that almost 33,000 innocent Afghanistan children were killed during these wars.
Other evidence estimates that of September 2021, over 400,000 Afghan, Iraqi, Pakistani, Yemeni, and Syrian civilians were killed during these wars.
Another reason 9/11 represents a turning point in history is because it is the reason for one of the largest economic declines in the United States of America.
This also impacted 429,000 jobs in 3 months, reducing the GDP by 0.5% and increasing the unemployment rate by 0.11%.
The final reason 9/11 was a turning point in history is because of how many people were not found after the attacks.
40% of victims, or about 1,100 people, were thought to have died in the disaster and remain unidentified. A total of 2,753 people were reported missing in Lower Manhattan after attacks on the World Trade Center.
After this podcast, hopefully you can see that 9/11 was a turning point in history because of the widespread fear it struck around the United States,
The two wars it caused in Iraq and Afghanistan,
the declines it had in the economy, especially with the GDP and unemployment rate,
the amount of people missing after the attacks, all the tragedies that happened that day and after have affected the world forever and most likely will never be forgotten.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. I hope you enjoyed.
Now let's do the credits.
Thank you to
Watson.brown.edu,
911memorial.org,
visualcapitalist.com,
bls.gov,
school.eb.com,
cnn.com,
and proquest.com.